Hello, my mamas, and welcome to our live rehab session. I'm very excited to be here. We've got the music pumping, getting those vibes, high vibrations. Today, we are going through week 2, day 3. So we have our core and our postpartum rehab. We also have our abdominal session. So really laying those solid foundations for when we progress and we're back in the gym, lifting the heavy things. So for today's session, you are going to need a mini band, or you are going to need a long band. You can also tie that long band to make a mini band. So if you have a mini band handy, that's great. We are just going to modify the last exercise in our abdominal session to just some rotation. So we kind of work the same aspect, but a little bit different at the same time. Now I have just had a snack, so I might get a couple of burpee burps up as we go through. Turn that music down just a little bit more so I can focus. Hello, we're blurry. All right, so as always, we are going to be starting off with our breathing, our core connection, our TVA holds with mini breath. So let's lay on our back. We need to use side lying technique. They're laying on our side and rolling over, opposed to crunching down. So there isn't necessarily anything wrong with doing crunches in the early postpartum stages. It's just we want to make sure that we're managing that pressure correctly. So at this stage, we'll just roll to the side and then roll to our back. So starting off with our breathing. So I'm just going to find pelvis neutral position. My knees are bent. This is just going to help take some of the pressure off my pelvic floor as well. Pelvis neutral position, we can pop our hands, fingertips in between our hips. So our fingertips are pointing down, we've got a little bit too much of an arch in our back. If our fingertips are pointing up, we're a little bit too flat. We want our fingertips just to be nice and flat. So for me, that means there is a little bit of a gap underneath my back, which, is a good thing too. That's going to allow me to really activate my TA, my deep core, my multifidus. And it's going to stop me from kind of crunching down into these abs and increasing that pressure, which we don't want. Hands onto our rib cage. We're going to go 10 breaths here. So really just focusing on our breathing. We're going to breathe in through our nose. Just letting everything relax as we breathe in. Breathing into our rib cage, so we should feel our hands expand in all directions. As we breathe out, I want you to get used to starting to breathe out through your mouth. I find like a lot of women can be a little bit embarrassed about making noise with their breath, but it is a really handy tool to use to help with our core activation. Breath 2, breathing in. Rib cage expands, nice deep breath. You'll get a little bit of overflow into your tummy. Breathe out through our mouth, let our body relax. Breathe in. So as we breathe into our rib cage, our pelvic floor naturally responds by lengthening. And breathe out. So you may be able to feel that. I just want you to be conscious of what's going on, not necessarily practicing anything at the moment. Breath 4. And 5. Six, breathing in, rib cage expanding. I find I get really jammed up in the back of my ribs. Breathing out, so I focus on sending the breath there. So 7. Bit of a chance to relax as well, and out through the mouth. 9. Good, and breathing out. One more breath. In through our nose. Into our rib cage. Feeling our back expand. And out. Out through the mouth. Well done. Moving on to our supine connection breath. So remembering with the connection breath, we're breathing in, expanding the rib cage. We are intentionally focusing on relaxing the pelvic floor. And as we breathe out, grabbing onto those sphincters. So closing all our holes, starting to lift that pelvic floor up. We're going to keep breathing out. Lower TA engages. As we continue to breathe out and really try and push out all our breath, we want to focus on zipping up and bringing together. So we do really want to we're almost forcing our breath, but we also want to make sure that our core muscles are firing correctly. So a common error that I can see when this happens is we breathe out and try and crunch those ribs down to bring everything together. And my back's flat, again, increasing pressure here and here, not really doing what we want to do, doing the opposite. So as we breathe out, I do kind of want you to think about almost a lengthening. So I'm zipping up and I almost feel like I'm lengthening up through the TA as I also bring it all together. So we're going to go 10 reps here. So we're breathing in, releasing, relaxing. So consciously want you to think about relaxing your pelvic floor here. So my sit bones, they're melting apart as I breathe in. As I breathe, start breathing out through my mouth, closing my holes, lifting my pelvic floor up, feeling the tension rise in this lower abdominals. Going to continue to breathe out. And I'm picturing all this coming together. And I have a good connection to my core, so I can even feel my TA all in my back engaging as well, which is where we eventually want you to get to really start being able to feel this upper TA come together. Breathing in, making sure you're constantly releasing and relaxing, consciously releasing, relaxing. Let's go for rep 2. Breathe out, close, lift. Engage the TA, not clenching the butt, not using our abs to squish down. Focus on that deep lift all the way up. Breathe in, release, relax. Let's go in for rep 3. Start breathing out through our mouth. You'll even be able to hear me breathing out now. Closing, lifting. Breathe in, release, relax. Rep 4. Close, holes, lift pelvic floor, activate TA, pull that zip up, close. Even if I like to think about visual, like abdominal separation. And as I breathe out, I'm zipping that ab separation together. Breathe in. Full release and relax. So really release that pelvic floor. Let those sit bones drift apart. Breathing in, breathing out, closing. Keep breathing out. TA. Breathe in. Release, relax. We've got 5 more. Sorry, 4 more. This is 6. Tighten, hold. Breathe in, release, relax. Let's go for 7. So we should feel everything tightening up and the belly should be nice and flat. Breathe in, release, relax. 2 more. 8, 3 more. Hold. Release. You need to take a breath in between reps, that's okay as well. You're going to breathe in, release, relax for rep 9. Breathe out. Good, breathe in, release, relax. And I should have mentioned at the beginning that the pelvic floor contraction, if we're thinking about our elevator, is only up to level 1. It's just a slight contraction to create a little bit of tension and a little bit of support. Last rep here, breathing in, releasing, relaxing. Breathing out. Closing together, zipping up. Our ribs, our TA connects to the top of our ribs. Our ribs should be coming down slightly, but again, we're not using our abs to grip down. We're using our TA to bring together. Breathing in, releasing, relaxing. Having a little bit of a rest, you guys can stay on your mat. Okay, so we have our TVA hold with our mini breath, which can be quite challenging. So the coordination of this movement is what I personally find the hardest, or found the hardest at those beginning stages, as well as the endurance. So it takes like a decent amount of endurance to be able to do this exercise as well. So we're working on strength and endurance of our pelvic floor and core here, which is really important again as we start thinking about the future and what we want to be doing in the future with our training. The strength and the endurance is going to be really important. And this exercise translates really well to lifting under load, needing to be able to create tension and hold that tension under load, but get those breaths in as well. So we've got we're going to do 5 reps of 5 breaths. So we're going to breathe in, release, relax. We're going to breathe out, connection breath. Tight. Now what I want you to do is keep the pelvic floor engaged, keep the TA engaged, but we need to breathe into our ribs for 1 breath. Breathe out, tighten a little bit more. Breathe into your ribs for breath 2. Breath 3. We're holding that TA and it's getting tighter each time. Breath 4. It's like we're doing that corset up tighter and tighter. Breath 5. Hold it and release. So what a lot of women do, or what I find a lot of my clients do, is when they're doing this mini breath is they'll tend to not actually breathe. So they'll kind of do the action of breathing, but it's really shallow and they're not actually getting a breath in. So that'll kind of look like up into the upper chest. So we want to hold but breathe into that rib cage. Let's go into rep number 2, breathing in, releasing, relaxing. Rib cage expanding, pelvic floor relaxes. We're going to start breathing out. Close pelvic floor, lift up. Close TA from the bottom to the top. Breathe out, create as much tension as we can. Now we're going to breathe into the rib cage, where we're going to hold that tension in the lower middle TA. Breathe out, tighten again. So we should get that upper TA activating again to tighten. Let's go for breath 2. 2, into the ribs for breath 3, breath 4, and breath 5. Good, hold, release, relax. So again, building that strength and endurance. Let's go for breath 3, breathe in, rib cage expands, pelvic floor relaxes, breathe out, close, lift. Activate TA. Zip all the way up. Mini breath 1, 2, 3. Into the ribs 4. Tighten 1 more. 5. Just laughing at. Oh, breathe in, release, relax. Really hard to speak. We've got 1 more rep. Let's take a breath here. Let's go again. Breathing in. Really release that pelvic floor. That lengthening is just as important. Breathing out, closing, lifting to level 1 of that elevator. Keep breathing out. TA, coming together. Breathe into the ribs. Keep that contraction. 1, into the ribs. 2, 3, 4. 1 more. 5, and rest. Well done. Take a good couple of breaths here. Really make sure that that pelvic floor is really nice and released. The glutes are relaxed. We want to make sure they're relaxed the whole time. Next is our supine elevators. So if you do have a tight pelvic floor, skip out, have a rest, just focus on more relaxation. What you can do is either be in this supine position and you can just focus on your breathing and consciously relaxing, or this is for tight pelvic floor, you can come into like a child's pose or a modified child's pose. This is really going to help stretch out the glutes, the adductors, and you can practice just some deep breathing, deep belly breathing and relaxation in that position. But for those of you who don't have a tight pelvic floor, maybe have a weaker pelvic floor or want to build the endurance up in our pelvic floor, let's go in for our supine elevators. So when we imagine our pelvic floor, we have our resting tone would be like the ground level. The basement is when we're relaxing. So we're not bearing down and pushing into basement level 2. We're just relaxing the pelvic floor into the basement. So as we start breathing out, we want to gather together and go past the ground level and create a little bit of tension, which would be level 1. Then we're going to continue to breathe out and try and control it to level 2. And then we're going to continue to breathe out and control it to level 3, which is our peak contraction. So at that peak contraction, we want to make sure that we aren't clenching the glutes. We really want to try and isolate our pelvic floor muscles. But what you might find is you can feel your TA activating as well. So to get a peak level contraction of our pelvic floor, there is going to be some TA activation involvement. They're connected and that's how it works. What I don't want you to be doing is like really using your core to try and get that activation, but you will notice it engage to get a peak activation. We're just going to go 5 reps here today because it can be quite challenging. So we're going to breathe in, practicing our connection breath, so breathing into our rib cage, releasing that pelvic floor into the basement. Now we're going to start breathing out. I want you to focus on closing all 3 holes. We're going to lift up to level 1, pause if we can, lift up to level 2, pause here, and then lift up to level 3. Keep breathing out, keep breathing out, keep breathing out, pause, and release. Well done. So we're working on control of our pelvic floor. We are working on coordination of our pelvic floor. We're working on strength, power. We're also working on endurance. So we're going to take a breath in. We're going to release, relax. This is for rep number 2. Breath out, close, lift. Level 1. Let's hold it. Let's lift to level 2. Let's lift to level 3. Hold and breathe in. Release, relax. So if we can practice being aware. So I'm a lot more dominant on my right side. I can really feel that. And I'm a lot more dominant in my posterior, which I can really feel. So I'm really going to be focusing my intention to my left side and my interior or my front pelvic floor. So just a good opportunity to really practice being aware of what's happening with your pelvic floor and trying to focus intention a little bit more in the areas that we might need. So the program is really designed to help you balance the tone of your pelvic floor, but being conscious and aware is also a part of that. Rep number 3, breathing in. Release, relax that pelvic floor. We're going to breathe out, close that hole. So I'm focusing on my front because that's the weakest area for me. And my left. Let's lift to level 1. Pause. Let's keep breathing out. Lift to level 2. Lift to level 3. In, release, and relax. I'm going to go straight to rep number 4. Breathing out, closing, lifting to level 1. Keep breathing out, level 2. Keep breathing out, level 3. And release. Good. Breathe in. We're going to go straight into rep number 5. Breathing out. Close, hold, and lift. 1, 2, Level 3, hold it. Good, and release and relax. Awesome work, mama. Take a breath here. All right, going to come into our abdominal session. So first we're going to be working on our cat camel, getting some flexibility in our spine, especially getting to a nice extension for us to help with our back mobility. We've got our marches, side plank, modified bird dog, bear lift, which can be quite challenging. So I can give you an alternative if you can't do the hold. Some more glutes. And we're going to swap the glute bridge with Pilaf press for some twisting. All right, let's get into our cat camels. So we're just going to take, again, the opportunity just to be nice and slow and steady. So we're really thinking about our intention with all these exercises, which is really important even for these foundational exercises. So in our tabletop position, we want to make sure that our wrists are stacked over our shoulders, not too far back, not too far forward. We just want to start off with a neutral position, even though we are going to be tilting our pelvis in each direction, just getting used to that nice neutral position, which is a little bit flatter. Here I'm too tilted forward, here I'm too tucked under. Nice and flat or neutral through the back. As we breathe in, we do want to intentionally feel the belly here, but we're not pushing out into the belly, and we're coming into a nice extension. So what I'm doing is tilting my pelvis forward and really trying to relax into my shoulder blades. So if you are tight through the back, you might find some resistance as you're trying to sink those shoulder blades down, but that's the idea of this exercise. So if you do have a C-section scar, you might feel a little bit of tightness in through around your scar, which, can be normal, but just stretch to where you feel comfortable and there's a little bit of tension, but not too much tension. And just making sure that your scar is healed if we are putting a little bit more tension on there. And as we breathe out, I want you to focus on lifting your core. I'm going vertebrae by vertebrae, tilting my pelvis under, pushing up through my shoulders to get into a really big, nice flexion, lifting that TA up. Rep 1, rep 2, breathing in, coming into an extension, breathing out, lifting TA, coming into flexion. Let's go for rep 3. You can make them continuous. Really just focus on vertebrae by vertebrae, sinking into those shoulders as well. Stretching through the tummy. 4, I'm probably going to miscount here, but that's standard for me. 5. 6, extension, breathing in, breathing out, pushing up. 7, 8. Really intentionally breathe through the mouth. Coming to our extension. 8. 2 more. Breathing in, out. 1 more. 10. Well done. So, marches, laying on our back. Side lying technique just to help protect our core. Then we have the modified side plank. So we just have 10 alternating reps. Pelvis neutral position, fingertips at level when I have them on my lower pelvis TA. I like to place a hand on my rib cage, sometimes even on my belly, just to help kind of visualize that TA lifting up. We're going to breathe in, releasing, relaxing. We're practicing our connection breath with each of these exercises. As we breathe out, closing, lifting pelvic floor just to level 1, just to create a little bit of tension there. Keep breathing out. Going to activate my TA first. And then I'm going to lift my leg. I'm going to keep breathing out. Lower. So slow and intentional breathing in. Release, relax, breathe out. TA activates, then we lift. So we want to try and create as much tension and stability as possible before we do the movement. We want to avoid kind of shifting and rotating through the pelvis and loading other muscles. Breathing in for rep 3, breathing out, connect to pelvic floor, connect to core, create tension, keep breathing out, lift leg, lower, keeping that pelvis stable. So as we're lifting, we don't want that pelvis to tilt forward. Sorry, that would be backwards. The front of my pelvis is tilting backwards and I'm rounding. And as we lower, we don't want that pelvis to tilt forward. We do that by activating our deep core. Breathing in, release, relax, breathe out, connect, then lift. 4, we can pick up the pace a little bit here if you can. Breathing in, release, relax, breathe out, connect, stabilize, lift. Breathing in, and say this is rep 5. Breathe in, release, relax, breathe out, connect pelvic floor, connect core, stabilize, lift, release. 6, 7, 8, 9, close, connect, stabilize, then lift. 9 and 10. So this exercise I would say is easy for me, but I can still feel those muscles working. So we're going to come into our modified side plank lift. So laying there, rolling to our side, propping ourselves up on our elbow. Again, we want to make sure that our elbow is underneath our shoulder. We're not too far out here or too close in here. You'll kind of find where's comfortable. You might have to adjust after the first lift or two, but that's okay. Knees are bent, my hips are stacked over each other. And what we're going to do is connection breath. So we've got 10 reps this side, 10 reps other side. Breathing in, release, relax, breathe out, connection breath. Activating that TA. So straight away, you can see me activating and I've got that tension created. And then we're going to lift into our modified side plank. So I'm actually going to bring my upper body forward a bit more and hold. It's just kind of natural for me now to lift that leg. So whatever's kind of comfortable for you, you can leave it down. Just find that up slightly allows me to keep my hips more even. So as we come down, in, release, relax, breathe out, activate, then lift. So what we're doing here too is focusing on that glute max, pushing through at the top of the movement. Breathing in, release, relax, breathe out, create tension, stabilize, then lift. 3, so again, that glute max is helping with that hip extension at the top there. 4, 5, breathing in, breathing out, activating, stabilizing, then moving. 6, 7, 8, good job, I've got 2 more on this side. 9, and last one. 10, well done. Ooh, I changed shoulders yesterday, so they're a little bit sore. Let's swap sides. We have 10 on the other side. All right, there feels about right. I can always adjust. Breathing in, releasing, relaxing, using that connection breath. So pelvic floor, as I start breathing out, core, connecting, stabilizing, then lifting for 1, What I find too sometimes, if I'm a little bit weaker, I tend to compensate by tilting backwards rather than using my glutes to push through. So just conscious of things like that. Breathing out, lifting for 2. Connecting, stabilizing, 3. 4. I just have my hand here to make sure that I'm using my core properly. 5. Breathing in, release, relax, connect, stabilize, lift. 6. 2 more. 7. Last one. And 8. Down and rest. 10-second rest here. Then we have our modified bird dog and our bear lift. I'm gonna have a 6 C's of water. Oh, I have my coffee there still. Don't you love that? I hate it when they end. My coffee ends and you go to pick up the cup and it's not there. It's cold, but hey, I'm used to that. Yummy. Okay, modified bird dog. Tabletop position, making sure that our wrist is over our shoulder. So same dealio here, we're modifying it by keeping all points of contact to the floor. Making sure that our pelvis stays in this neutral position. As I extend, I don't want to be arching or coming into this flex position either. Using our connection breath. In, release and relax. We're coming into rep 1. We're going to breathe out. Connect that TA first. What we're going to do is load the arm and the leg, loading the arm and leg that are going to stay on the ground. And then, so I'm totally loaded on that arm and leg. Slowly come out. Everything stays nice and neutral, not twisting from the pelvis, not rocking side to side, really trying to stabilize and draw back in. I'm just going to shuffle forward. Breathing in. Release, relax, breathe out. Stabilize, 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 stabilize. Shift weight onto leg and arm that are staying on the floor so I don't move when I extend my arm and leg, keeping points of contact on the ground. Keep breathing out. Rep 2. Breathing in, breathe out, connect, extend. 3. Control it back in 2. Don't try and just flop back down. Keep that tension. Control the movement back in as well. Breathe out, breathe out, breathe out. Shift weight to stabilizing leg and arm. Then slowly extend the leg and arm. 4. Control back in. Breathe in, release, relax. Breathe out. 5. Breathe in, release, relax. Breathe out, connect, stabilizing, extending. 6. We're super intentional with each movement here. 7, no matter how big or how small, this is where it all starts, remember. 8. 2 more. 9. Got 1 more, breathing in, releasing, relaxing. Breathing out, connecting, stabilizing, shifting weight onto stabilizing arm and leg. Extending and returning and rest. Good job, let's have a quick breath. So we're getting into our bear lifts. I find this exercise quite challenging. So if you can't quite hold for 5 seconds, that's okay. We just want to generate tension, lift off slightly and back down. It's always something that you can work on and progress over time. Excuse me, got me burp. And even When we do go on the next stage, if you just aren't quite at that stage, that's okay. You just sit back at the stage before. Even though this is a 12-week program, if you need a little bit more time, that's okay. We can sort all that out. But I'd rather you progress at your pace than try and rush through it just because we've given a 12-week time frame, if that makes sense. So if you need to do an extra week, you need to do an extra week at that phase. Okay, bear lift. Again, in our tabletop position, toes come under. It is all about creating as much tension as we can before we lift off. So breathing, practicing that connection breath. Into the rib cage, we're going to breathe out. Pelvic floor, really activate that lower TA from here. And we want to make sure that our serratus is working. So our serratus helps keep our shoulder blades nice and flat. So almost kind of pushing up in through my upper back, but when we come into our cat camel, just not to the same extent. I still want to use my TA and not let these upper back muscles take over. Breathe in, release, relax, breathe out. Create a hell of a lot of tension, then lift. So as I lift, you can see how everything stays nice and neutral and whole for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and down. Great job. Breathing in, release, relax, breathing out, then lift and hold. If you can only lift and come back down, that's fine too. For 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. 10 reps. This gets difficult. Breathe in, release, relax, breathing out. Activate first, stabilize, then lift for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Breathing out, lifting for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. We've got 5 more reps. If you need to stop here and use noticing signs of intolerance, that's fine. Stop here, work on your progression over time. Breathing out. Really activate that TA, then lift. 5, 4, 3, 2, and release. 7. Breathe out, then lift for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. I'm even getting a bit wobbly here. They are hard. In for 8. Activate, activate, stabilize, stabilize, then lift for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can see that I'm starting to take a little bit of that load through my back now instead of using my TA. So if I need to not hold for 5, that's fine. If you're in the same position and you need to stop, that's fine too. Just going to be more conscious of what's going on with my lats and my shoulders. Breathing in for 9. Breathing out. Activate, activate, activate. Lift. That feels better. For 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And lower. We've got 1 more, mamas. Breathing out. Lift for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest. They are very, very challenging and they get harder as the program goes along too, but a great exercise for total body strength really, and learning how to coordinate different muscles with our core as well. Single leg prone hip extension and a supine knee band adduction. So you will need a mini band or your long band tied up. Let's go. Prone hip extension. So lean on our tummies. Again, side lying technique if you need to. A little bit more protection of your core if your core's a bit weaker. Hopefully you can hear me. It's not too muffled as I come down into our prone hip extension. We want our legs at a 90 degree angle, and I like to kind of flex my feet. So I find that really helps me to isolate that glute a little bit more, and I'm kind of pumping my heels straight up. We don't want to be too here or too far out because I'm just going to activate a little bit more hamstring if we're out here. If we keep our leg at that 90, we're really going to activate our glutes. Sequence that we should feel things. is we want to lift off with our glute, because glute is the primary muscle for hip extension, which is this movement here. And you will feel a little bit of hamstrings, because our hamstrings are going to join the party, and you might feel a little bit of your lower back or your lumbar. So in that sequence, I would say is normal. Glute, hamstrings, a little bit of lower back. Not too much hamstrings, not too much lower back. Glute is the main muscle you should be feeling. If you feel too much hamstrings and lower back, you're not activating your glutes properly. So what we want to do is just continue to really focus my muscle connection, intention, and it's just with repetition and intention and really visualizing that we're going to build those neural connections to our glutes. What you can do also to help is to pop your hands under your hips. So we want to focus in this one, tilting our pelvis forward slightly or pushing our pubic bone into the mat or into our hands if we have them underneath our hips. So from that position, just a small movement. We're going to breathe in, release, relax. We're going to breathe out, stabilize everything first, because as TA is activated, our pelvis is going to stay nice and stable. From there, we're just going to pump, a little pump towards the air, mainly trying to feel our glute max, and then releasing. We've got 10 reps here. In and out. Breathing in, releasing, breathing out, contracting, stabilizing, lifting that leg. 3. So really focusing on that isolation. 4, 5, just a small movement. 6, 7, 8, 2 more. 9 and 10. And let's swap legs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's a little bit harder for me on this side. I've really got to focus. 8, 9, 1 more. 10. Awesome work. Rolling over onto our back, we will need our mini bands. Popping it around our legs. So the higher up our knees we have it, the easier it can be, and the lower, the harder it can be. So I'm just going to start off nice and easy today, above my knees. Pelvis neutral position, kind of feet wherever's comfortable enough to get a little bit of tension on the band. So again, this is another really small movement, but really good isolation. So being in this prone position stops us using a lot of our core muscles, hip flexors, really enables us to isolate that glute med. Now there are kind of 2 ways that we can abduct. One is external rotation, where the hip rotates in the socket. So we use a lot more of our deeper glute muscles, which probably isn't going to be the case of what we want to use today. Or we can abduct, which is our glute medius. So that top glute muscle up here, so what that means is the hip kind of stays in its socket, but it's just going to rotate out this way rather than rotating around. So we want to push out against the band. So we've got 10 reps here. We might challenge ourselves this week, see if we can do 15. So we're going to breathe in. This is also a good opportunity to practice our TA hold with mini breath as well. So if you need to fully release and then breathe out again and connect, and then go into your next rep, that's fine. But a way that we can progress is by using that mini breath with TA hold, which is what I'm going to do now. If you want to reset between each rep, that's fine. So we're going to breathe in, release, relax. We're going to breathe out, connect, stabilize, come into rep 1. So I'm going to hold that contraction in my core, use my mini breath. 2, hold that contraction. 3, hold that contraction. 4, mini breath. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're going to go 15 reps if you can. 10. Let's go 5 more. 11, 12, 13. If you need to reset your breath, that's fine. 14, and 1 more. 15. Good. And making sure we're fully resting, fully relaxing that pelvic floor. Awesome work. Last exercise. Like I said, we're going to swap that supine modified glute bridge with pelvic press for a little bit of a bodyweight Russian twist. So twisting is fine in those early stages. There can be a lot of misconception, but research is also really changing when it comes to our postpartum movement, which is very, very exciting. Saying that we need to do more sooner, obviously circumstantial, but movement really is medicine. It really does aid healing. Little story, I actually talked to a gentleman, an older gentleman yesterday who had a knee reconstruction, and I was just talking to him a little bit about his movement. I saw him at the gym and he was like, yeah, they had me up walking like the day of or the day after surgery. I know that pregnancy is a little bit different and there's a lot more that goes on, but it just goes to show you that movement is really going to help us. So with our Russian twist, we're just going to do it body weight. So if you have a little bit of a weaker core at this stage, being in this total upright position is fine. If you do have a little bit of a stronger core, you can get a little bit of a lean back as well. It's going to challenge our TA a bit more. Otherwise, let's just stay in this upright position. Hands are going to come together and we're just going to rotate, breathe in and rotate around. It's really good for your mobility as well. And we're going to use our breath. Imagine this calming together as we go back to center. Breathing in, rotating, breathing out. Our abs come together and we come back to center. We're just going to do 10 small rotations. Even just at that angle, I can feel my hip flexors, which is always going to be the case because my hips are flexed, right? If it's a little bit too much for you, just get into that more upright position and just turn as much as your mobility allows. 3. Breathing in. Bring it together for 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 2 more. 9 and 10. Well done. That was even challenging for me at this stage. Let's just lay on our backs, finishing off with some nice breathing. And really, let's take a moment to connect with our bodies. I know that can be a little bit difficult for us in those early postpartum stages again. We might feel quite disconnected from our body. We might not quite feel like ourselves, but taking that time to really, be in the moment with our body, how it feels for us, even if it's not the best feeling in the world, that's okay. And just know that by being here and coming to your sessions with intention, you're taking the time for yourself, you're prioritizing yourself, which are all really important for your self-worth and being comfortable with where you are and who you are. Breathing in nice and deep, making sure that body is relaxing, connecting with our body, and giving ourselves some appreciation for the effort and the work that we're putting in for ourselves and for our families, for our children. When we look after ourselves, it has a really big flow-on effect. When we feel good about ourselves, it has a really big flow-on effect. Prioritizing yourself is so important. Let's do one more really deep, meaningful breath. Breathing in. Breathe in everything that you want to be. Breathe out everything that isn't serving you. Awesome. Well, I'm very excited to be here with you. Thank you for joining me. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I will see you next week for our live session. Bye.